Hi, in this video, I'll share with you some of the winning strategies after I read this book, Catalyst, The Ultimate Strategies on How to Win at Work and in Life. This is the second video in this series, and the final one. In the first one, we saw some strategies that we can use at work so that we can maximize our potential, maximize the learning. In this video, I will share what I was inspired for some of the strategies that we can use while we change our current work, meaning when we go from one job to the other job. What things should we keep in mind? How do we maximize our success so that we can win? And also, what is the impact of our overall life at home and how does that impact work, which is what we'll cover in this video. These are some of the 8 points that I'm going to be covering. This is a summary. So let's get into it. Let's look at the first half of our career. Based on the author's sampling, which is over a vast variety of careers that he has seen, a lot of companies that he has worked at, he believes that the first half of the career, which is if you divide your 40 years or 50 years or 60 years career into two halves, first 30 and the second 30, if you look at the first 30, almost 90% people or 80% people win, as is shown in this diagram. 10-20% roughly don't win, as in they don't maximize their potential, they don't reach the success that they define for themselves. Maybe they don't even define success. The second half of the career, which is from 30 to 60 or 40 to 80, most people do not succeed. We covered some of these reasonings in the first video. But if this was true, that a lot of people do not succeed in the second half, then it is super important for us to focus a lot of our energy in the first half of our career building the foundations so that we are capable, our skills are diverse, and that is what we covered in the first video, the details of this. But this data point makes it even more critical for us so that we focus some of our energy a lot of our energy actually, to focus on the foundations in the first half so that the second half has a higher probability of success. Very important. Effective bosses as a catalyst. That's the second strategy that we can use on our side. Can we pick our bosses? There's a 50% influence, I think, you have, and there's 50% that's outside your influence. But there are a lot of things, 50% at least, of influence. So when you pick your boss, and if you want to pick the best boss, remember that a best boss is also looking for the best subordinate or someone who is doing the best work. So if you do your best job, you will be noticed. If not at your current company, outside. So doing your best job is probably the best way to find the best boss. That was a big insight from this book for me. Also, but if you're looking to find a new company because of whatever reasons, looking at which are some of the companies that attract and retain talent for a long period of time, or who have a large concentration of talented people. If you find out those companies, you'll find out that those companies are generally doing well because those talented people are there. Hopefully they are working on projects that are important because of talented, successful people, and they're rewarded. So the company is doing well. So if you find a good company with looking at the talent, starting all the way from the CEO, you would maximize your chance to pick a good boss. Then it comes down to which team within that company. Well, you could look at what is the CEO talking about all the time? What are the top 3 things that are important to him? The CEO may talk about a lot of important things. But there'll be a theme if you watch the CEO, if you're lucky internally, if you're moving, and if you're lucky, you can watch a lot of the all hand videos or the communication that the CEO does. Or just look at any public information of that CEO of that company. You will know a theme of things that the CEO believes is super important. Once you know the top three themes or the top three teams that the CEO is bullish about, you could focus on those teams to find out which of those leaders are leading those teams. You could also find out if one of those leaders is actually getting promoted. Then that's a proxy that you will also get larger and larger responsibilities. So starting with figuring out the company, figuring out what's the CEO's focus, figuring out some of the leaders, how they are progressing, what their aspirations are. And once you find some of them, then sticking to some of those bosses for a long period of time to maximize your chance of learning is some of the tips that I have used and I have learned from some of my seniors. So I'm gratefully thankful for them. But this book also shares that there's some things that you can do, but a lot of things, 50%, might be outside your control. Even if you pick the best boss, the best company, that CEO can leave. That manager that you joined the team could leave in like a week or two, right? So there's 50% chance. So you can do your best, but if you want to increase the 50% chance to much more, do your best work at the role that you are at. And take it forward from there. So doing your best work and doing your research will help making sure that the bosses that you work for or work with are an effective catalyst, because this is very, very important. If you have a right manager or a leader, they'll give you the right set of opportunities and you will grow. So it's very, very important to have the right boss, because that could be a huge catalyst in your growth. There's also a role of a mentor. That's the next topic. Is mentor the same as your boss? Most likely not. And here's why. So let's look at first let's look at what are some of the qualities of a good mentor. A mentor is someone who is much more senior to you in terms of experiences. And we've defined experience as not just years of experience, but like real experiences that they have learned from by doing hard work. A mentor is someone who is very senior to you, 5-10 years at the minimum, who knows you in depth. So you've taken the time to build a relationship with them. You've cultivated those relationships with them. You've spent a lot of time with them, and that's how they know you well. So if a mentor doesn't know you well, then it's not a good mentor, because they'll not give you specific advice. They'll give you generic advice, which books can give you. But like a live person, a mentor, is very senior to you, has things that they has advice for you that is specific to you because they know you well. They're genuinely interested in you. And third is they're not in your line of authority. Prefer this, not mentor, not equal boss, as much as possible. But luckily, I've been in situations that my mentor and my boss have coincided a lot in a lot of my roles that I've taken. So it's possible, but these are some of the general guidance from the book. And I feel this is a highly likely situation to be in. So mentors have a huge role as a catalyst. So seek effective mentors. Spend the time, cultivate that relationship, and use them and give back as well, and use them for your benefit. Let's look at the next point, changing work. There will be times when you have to make a decision to change work or change a company, change a role. How do you go about making those decisions? Well, there are many reasons that many people have, but there are two main reasons. If you see lack of growth or learning opportunities or a culture fit or a values-based alignment mismatch, then those are very strong reasons for you to start looking outside. And that's when you've decided to quit. But there are two decisions here, a decision to quit and a decision to join somewhere else. And it's very important not to conflate the two, keep them separate. A decision to quit should be primarily motivated because of learning opportunities, growth, and to seek culture and situations and environment where you can thrive. So the values of the companies aligned with the values that you have. Some of these things are very important to think through, because if you don't think through some of these decisions, there could be a huge impact in your career. Because you might be in a learning cycle where you're building experiences. Now all of a sudden that's going to be disrupted. If you work in a company for a long period of time, some of your previous decisions, you could look back and learn to see how those decisions impacted the company. And now you're exponentially learning, because you are in a long period of time, you can see how some of those decisions have shaped, even though when you were not there, and you could reflect on what you could do better. But if you're out of the company, you probably don't even know what happened after you left, because there's just no time. So there's a huge exponential growth opportunity to learn from some of your previous decisions in your previous roles in a company into your next role. So there could be a huge learning experience that is lost when you change the company. And also, as I said earlier, your learning cycle is disrupted. Now you have to figure out the next company. The biggest tip by reading this book that I was inspired was, do not conflate decision to quit and decision to join as the same decision. Be very sure to decide first decision to quit, independent of where you want to join. And come up with 4 quadrants. Good points about your current company, bad points about your current company, good points about the future company, bad points about the future company. And make sure you weigh all of this. Typically, people go from bad points of the current company to the good points of the future company. But then the future company could also have some of those bad points. There could be a lot of risks. So making these decisions in sequence and having a very rational view of why you're making some of those decisions to maximize your chance so that there's limited disruption, that you're not losing out on a lot of momentum that you've built, and a lot of connections, a lot of context, a lot of business awareness of the team. It's very, very important. So changing work is important. Do it when you have to do it. Make sure it's aligned with some of these ideas to maximize your chance so that there's limited disruption. Let's look at the other strategy that was mentioned. Hobbies. As leaders, as senior leaders, you and I started off as an individual leader, meaning your own self, your own achievement, your own contribution. So that's the basis. Achievements are the basis for any growth. So to be a senior leader, you have to have a series, a track record of great achievement. You've contributed. And that's a natural desire. We all want to achieve things on a daily basis. So that's a daily need. But as leaders, there's increasingly more and more need to work to get better as a team, as yourself, and that requires a lot of time commitment. And increasingly as leaders, you would be required to motivate the team on the goal, on the mission, the purpose. Even that requires a lot of time. But there is this inherent desire for achievement on a regular basis. That's where hobbies come in. So this is the hierarchy of needs for leaders per this book. And I quite agree. So having a hobby where you're constantly striving, getting better at it, is very, very important. It doesn't have to be a software engineering hobby if you're a software leader. It could be running. It could be guitar. It could be a goal-based hobby where you're constantly measuring and improving your achievement. Final point of strategy that this book ends with, which is how does one get to larger than life leadership? We have a lot of examples. And what is leadership? And how do we catalyze leadership in us? So there are three variables that influence leadership for this book. And here's a formula for this. Leadership equals the current title or the position of the company that you're in, the content, the depth of your algorithm, the personal experience that you come with. If you add that up and multiply that by the values and the purpose with which you live and execute that energy to the team, and that has an influence on the number of people. Your work as senior leaders would be influenced. You would influence a lot of people. And so there'll be a lot of people who are following you. They'll look up to you. And there are a lot of these larger than life leaders and personalities. Let's take a look at some of them. Narendra Modi, India's Prime Minister. Oprah Winfrey. Jeff Weiner, CEO of LinkedIn. Sheryl Sandberg. Bill Gates. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. Mahatma Gandhi. What did you think about some of those leaders when you saw them? They have a different, larger than life personality. They have a sense of energy, sense of purpose, sense of achievement. So that's what this book ends with. It's for each one of us to define what is the purpose of our life. What does success mean to you? Why do we want to succeed? So a lot of these strategies that in these two videos we saw about winning, but why is it that we want to do it? And do we aspire to be these inspirational leaders, larger than life? If that's the case, then having a clear sense of purpose is super important. All of these leaders that I picked, they work with a sense of purpose. They have a mission. They contribute in a pretty big way. And they've defined for themselves what is success. So let's spend some time thinking, what does success mean to each one of us? Why do we want to succeed? To end, I highly, highly recommend this book. Chandramouli, thank you very much. This is a great book. I really, really enjoyed. I was totally inspired by reading this book. That's why I created some of this content. Go and grab a copy. It's an awesome book. A lot of great learning. You can finish reading this in 5-6 hours. Great book. Catalyst, Chandramouli Venkatesan. Thank you, sir, for great effort here.